Another fare war is getting underway. Continental and Eastern Airlines cutting ticket prices, the other airlines quickly falling in line. And analysts say it could squeeze out the remaining smaller airline companies. The Beirut newspaper says that Terry Waite is well and scheduled to reappear soon.
This is Daybreak on CNN for Friday, January 30th. With Reid Collins in Washington and Molly McCoy and Brian Nelson in Atlanta.
Good morning. A Beirut newspaper reports that Terry Waite has been seen driving in a motorcade over in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, and that he plans to return to Beirut over the next couple of days. Now, Waite has been out of sight of Western reporters for 11 days, and fears were raised for his safety. The Anglican Church has also received assurances that Waite is well. There have been rumors, too, that he may be coming out with some of the hostages in tow. Well, the new Senate report on the Iran-Contra affair says there is no direct evidence that President Reagan knew the profits from Iranian arms sales were being diverted to the Nicaraguan rebels. But the report's authors admit that key questions remain unanswered because key witnesses have not talked. The Senate Intelligence Committee issued a 65-page report yesterday, cautioning it still is preliminary, incomplete. Among the major findings, the arms to Iran deals began as an effort to improve relations, but evolved quickly into a campaign to buy freedom for the U.S. hostages in Lebanon. The White House believed the Iranian arms merchant Manucher Ghorbanifar when he said the Ayatollah Khomeini would resign in February of 1986. Believed this even though the CIA called Ghorbanifar a talented fabricator who had failed a lie detector test. CIA Director William Casey got regular briefings on the secret deals, and he was told by his staff last spring that the arms for hostages effort was, quote, dead in the water. But the Senate report does not say what role the CIA, private individuals, and foreign governments may have played in the deals, nor does it say how much money was raised for the Contras. Those questions, say the authors of the report, are for the special congressional panels that will work through most of 1987 on the Iran-Contra affair. Communist rebels in the Philippines today formally withdrew from the suspended peace talks, charging the Aquino government as insincere in working for a settlement. The rebels cite the shootings last week by security forces of those 12 protesters marching for land reform in Manila. This is only the latest challenge to Aquino, who today said she'll tolerate no more efforts to destabilize her government. Anti-Aquino rebels saying she was too soft on communism came at her from the right wing this week, took over this Manila television station, held it more than 2 days. Aquino said it's time to draw the line with plotters against her government, and those who rebelled are going to be fully prosecuted. I had forgiven them in the past, said Aquino, but this is too much. Well, Ferdinand Marcos now denies that a jet leased by a Lebanese arms dealer had been chartered to fly him from Hawaii back to the Philippines. The Aquino government said yesterday it had aborted a Marcos plot to return aboard a jetliner spotted at the Honolulu airport. Marcos said he still wants to go home, though, and he's had plenty of offers of help.
I can only say this. There are many offers. There have been many offers for me to take this plane or that plane. There have been offers of arms being advanced to me, some of which are to be paid later on. But I have refused to be tempted.
And said Marcos from his estate in Honolulu, what can I do, poor little me? I merely want to be able to help our people avoid the yoke and the tyranny of communism. Well, if he couldn't be in the Philippines for New Year's, it seems Marcos at least was trying to send some videotaped greetings to his supporters. A VHS video cassette intercepted by a Hawaiian television station is half exercise video and half political ad. It shows Marcos here working out, lifting dumbbells, jogging, indulging in some shirtless shadow boxing as well. Also shows Marcos delivering a pep talk to his supporters on the home front. Marcos' spokesman could not be reached to comment on the precise purpose of the Marcos tape.
Going on 5 minutes past the hour now. In the bloody war between Iran and Iraq, the Iranian offensive against Basra, Iraq's second largest city, appears to have been halted. One Western military analyst in Iraq says Iran may have sacrificed 30,000 lives to gain 15 square miles. Iranian troops penetrated to within a few miles of Basra, but now appear to be going nowhere. Iraq claims it has regained territory in the area. Iran says the offensive continues. Neither claim can at present be verified, but Iraq is continuing air attacks attacks on Iranian cities, including deadly carpet bomb attacks on essentially civilian targets.
In South Africa, the government there has imposed new censorship rules banning all references in advertisements or news reports supporting the outlawed African National Congress. And the country's police commissioner has been given authority to block press reports on, and quote, any matter he chooses to censor. In the meantime, President Pierre Botha has scheduled parliamentary elections for whites only on May the 6th, and South Africa's ambassador to London has resigned, apparently, in order to oppose the Botha government in those elections.
The very touchy matter of raising pay for federal workers, including congressmen, drew a resounding no from the Senate. It voted 87-7 to block that raise, which was recommended by President Reagan. But the House must also reject, and with only 5 days left to act, the House is moving very slowly. If not blocked, the raises for thousands of federal workers will take effect on Tuesday. Besides Congress, the Cabinet and the Vice President, federal judges, and many other employees would see about a 15% raise.
Agricultural interests say they're disappointed, but upscale consumers should be happy this morning with a trade agreement worked out between the United States and the common market. In return for increased sales of U.S. grain to Europe, this country will drop plans to impose stiff new tariffs on some European wines, cheeses, foodstuffs, and liquor. The agreement is expected to be ratified by the 12-nation common market this morning. Grain industry officials say the agreement restores only about half of the sales that U.S. farmers lost when Spain and Portugal joined the common market last year and cut their purchases of U.S. grain. Officials in San Juan, Puerto Rico say no more arrests are expected soon in the DuPont Plaza hotel fire. A third suspect in the New Year's Eve blaze is expected to be arraigned today. Jose Francisco Rivera Lopez was arrested yesterday and charged with 96 counts of murder and 1 count each of arson, destruction of property, and conspiracy. Like the other 2 suspects, Rivera worked at the hotel and was a member of the Teamsters Union. The fire broke out shortly after the union voted to strike the hotel.
A convicted murderer who refused legal help was executed early this morning in Texas. Ramon Hernandez is the first person put to death in the U.S. this year. He was condemned for a failed 1980 robbery attempt in which a night watchman was killed. Hernandez said yesterday he did not want a stay of execution. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected a last-minute attempt by civil liberties lawyers to stop the lethal injection. A leader in the sanctuary movement to help illegal Central American refugees is now in a Texas prison. Stacey Merck entered that Fort Worth facility yesterday. She's more than 2 months pregnant and says she wants to finish her 6-month sentence before her baby's born. Merck has been convicted twice for her role in transporting illegal aliens from El Salvador. The sanctuary movement helps refugees who have been refused permission to enter the U.S. on political grounds.
It is 8 minutes past the hour. We're going to take a quick look at the nation's weather this morning. Here's Valerie Voss. Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you. Snow moving from the Great Lakes toward the New England as the day goes on today. We'll see showers with snow in the mountains south from about central Pennsylvania southward.
Review a few on Take 2 at noon Eastern on CNN.
This is CNN, a service of Turner Broadcasting System.
But all these propaganda ploy, these fabrications, that I'm supposed to be dying, I'm in a comatose state, and that I will not be able to come home, are false and fabricated.
A videotape made by Marcos to prove his mettle for the folks back home. In Manila, President Aquino flexes her muscle, files a crackdown on rebels, orders a general arrested.
This is Daybreak on CNN for Friday, January 30th. With Reid Collins in Washington and Marianne Loughlin and Bob Cain in Atlanta.
Good morning. An independent newspaper in Beirut, An-Nahar, says Terry Waite is in the Bekaa Valley and is planning to reappear in Beirut in the next couple of days. It says he's been talking with extremist leaders in the Bekaa, including the Shiite leader Hussein Moussawi. On Wednesday, Moussawi reaffirmed the kidnapping of foreigners as a legitimate means of political expression. Now, Waite last was seen by Western eyes 11 days ago in Beirut, and there are fears from Canterbury to Chicago that he too might have been victimized by terrorists, but the paper An-Nahar says not so. The Senate Intelligence Committee last night released a public version of its long-awaited report on the Iran-Contra affair. And while the authors caution it is preliminary and incomplete, it does say the president did not know profits from Iranian arms sales were going to the Contra rebels. The panel says key facts still are missing because key witnesses still have not testified, but it believes the Iran initiative did evolve into an arms for hostages deal.
It started out as an initial conceptual need to explore opportunities for a different relationship with certain factions in Iran, with hostages return becoming incidental to that, evolved rather quickly at the operational level at least to a predominant concern of the return of the hostages in exchange for the arms.
It may well have started out as an attempt to open a relationship with Iran. I don't think arms would have ever been used as the mechanism of opening a new relationship had the hostage question not been involved.
The Senate panel says its report sets up the more detailed investigations to be conducted later in the year by the House and Senate select panels. South Africa's police commissioner today began exercising his new right, which is to ban any printed or recorded material he chooses. And President Botha announced elections will be held this May for the first time in 6 years. The vote's expected to become a white referendum on Botha's limited racial reforms and censorship crackdowns. Opposition may come from reformist Dennis Worrell, who resigned today as South Africa's ambassador to Britain. Press reports in Johannesburg say Worrell may fight Botha through the National Party, leading a faction of it that's demanding quicker government action in reforming apartheid. A van loaded with explosives was detonated in downtown Zaragoza, Spain today. It killed 2 people, injured at least 36. The 2 victims were riding in this military bus that passed near the van when the explosives were set off.
Communist rebels are calling off peace talks with the Philippine government. At a rally today in Manila, the rebels circulated a statement saying President Corazon Aquino is not sincere about seeking a settlement. The rebels cite as evidence the killings by security forces of at least a dozen land reform demonstrators at a march last week in Manila. Meanwhile, a chief Aquino aide says as many as 100 civilians will be arrested for taking part in a failed military coup attempt. That attempt to oust the Aquino government ended peacefully yesterday when government forces disarmed about 200 rebel soldiers who had taken over a TV station in Manila. A New Year's greeting from Ferdinand Marcos to his supporters in the Philippines has been intercepted in Manila. The greeting is a videotape showing the former Philippine ruler working out at his home in exile in Honolulu, showing that he is in good health. The 69-year-old Marcos is seen shadowboxing, jogging in place, and lifting dumbbells. The tape also includes a 20-minute speech in which Marcos denounces the Aquino government and rumors of his ill health. Marcos claims he's being treated like a prisoner in Honolulu. He is bitter because U.S. officials warned him not to return to the Philippines. He spoke with reporters about the incident. We'll have a full report on that at the quarter after the hour.
Now, 5 minutes past the...
Sneak peek at
Every single one!
Preview a few on Take 2 at noon Eastern on CNN.
This is CNN, a service of Turner Broadcasting System.
Ferdinand Marcos in a videotape made to impress the folks back home that he is still a robust man, but not able to get this video from Hawaii to Manila. President Aquino's getting the picture. She's ordered a general arrested for the latest mutiny, and she says enough is enough.
This is Daybreak on CNN for Friday, January 30th. With Reid Collins in Washington and Molly McCoy and Brian Nelson in Atlanta.
Good morning. Police say that Christian East Beirut was rocked by a powerful explosion today and dozens of people have been wounded. Witnesses say the sound of the blast echoed across the city, and a mushroom-like cloud of black smoke hangs over an industrial district that houses several factories. Cause of the explosion is not yet pinpointed. A car bomb also reportedly went off today in the Christian shopping district just as a school bus was going by. Police say at least 2 people were killed there, several others wounded, including some school children. This is the second car bomb attack this year in Christian East Beirut. A Beirut newspaper says that Terry Wade is all right, continuing his hostage negotiations over in the Bekaa Valley, that he will resurface sometime again over the weekend. Well, among those he's been dealing with is the Shiite leader Musawi, who on Wednesday reaffirmed that foreign hostage-taking is a legitimate political weapon. A photo of the latest victim, the educator Robert Polhill, was delivered to Western news agencies yesterday. Guns pointed at his head and a written threat to kill him and 3 colleagues if the United States takes any overt action against Lebanon. Well, its authors say it is preliminary and incomplete, but at last the Senate Intelligence Committee's report on the Iran-Contra affair has been made public. After weeks of backdoor leakings of draft reports, the final report was handed out last night. It says the secret Iranian initiative came about when U.S. experts thought they could counter some growing Soviet influence in the region, but then it evolved into a straight arms for hostages deal. Other highlights: there is no sign the president knew any profits from Iranian arms sales were going to the Contras, but Mr. Reagan kept up contacts against some expert advice because he feared for the safety of the hostages. The report says Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North had claimed the Contra cash transfers had first been suggested by an Israeli terrorism expert, Amir Amnir. Israel has denied any official involvement in this. The report says, too, that CIA Director William Casey got regular briefings on the secret deals and that he was told by subordinates last spring that the arms for hostage effort was dead in the water. The senators who authored this report warn it leaves gaps yet to be filled in the Iran-Contra story because key witnesses such as North have not yet talked. A bomb hidden in a van exploded today as a busload of Spanish soldiers passed by in Zaragoza, Spain. The bus driver and an army major were killed. At least 20 people were hurt. They include a blind woman.
Larry Speakes puts in his last day today as the principal White House press spokesman. He's held that job now for nearly 6 years, the longest tenure since James Haggerty worked for President Eisenhower back in the 1950s. CNN's Charles Bierbauer reports.
When Larry Speakes brought his successor, Marlin Fitzwater, out to meet the press, the first question to the president's new spokesman came hard and fast.
Do you think the government or a government spokesman has at any time the right to lie or to directly and knowingly mislead the public?
Fitzwater ducked a debate that day. He knows dueling is part of the game, but says lying is not, and Speakes agrees.
Always tell the truth. I think the second commandment is, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. And the third would be, you don't have to explain what you don't say.
I will not comment on that.
Why not?
Because I choose not to. Of course, your convoluted reasoning escapes me. If you want to settle these matters, why don't you show up at my office right now?
Right now?
Yep.
Sure.
Get up and go.
The spokesman is the president's go-between, sometimes his get-between.
You got to go the next time.
The spokesman controls interviews, few, has a say in news conferences, seldom, and how close the press can get, not very. When the president was hospitalized with colon cancer, there was chaos over how the administration was being run.
They should have let the public know what was in the letter.
We didn't care about the public.
But Speakes says the Grenada invasion was the public relations low point in this administration. National security officials sent him out with disinformation.
But we asked, was there going to be an invasion of Grenada today? And the answer was preposterous, and we relayed it. We forgot to ask, was there going to be an invasion of Grenada tomorrow?
When Speakes gathered former press secretaries for a reunion, it was clear that the job has changed considerably.
Now, when I was press secretary, we never had more than 15 of my briefings, at the most.
Okay, how many do you want to leave?
Let's get on down to the old days.
But the old days are gone.
I've raised my voice. I've used sharp words. They've got their show. I've got mine. We both know what our responsibilities are, and we exercise it.
What goes on in this one-room circus does affect the daily news. But the issue here is not style, not Larry Speakes' bite, nor his good old boy Mississippi charm, not Fitzwater's self-effacing humor. The issue here is always the truth. Charles Bierbauer, CNN, the White House.
And that will wrap up Daybreak for this Friday. We thank everybody. I'm Molly McCoy.
And I'm Brian Nelson. In the next hour of Daywatch, we'll have the details of a story about two leading Soviet human dissidents who will be allowed to immigrate from the Soviet Union. Please stay with us.